Okay, so what we want to talk about, what we're going to look at, is how do we make a dynamic scene? How do we do composition so that it looks good and nice? Um, Good and nice, that sounds weird. Um, and what are all the different elements that we can use to make it look dynamic so that we can make it exciting? Uh, Many times, we don't have. Oh, hold on. This is not working right here. Here, I'm just going to go file new. Many times we don't get a choice on the materials. What we get a choice on is here's the product, here's the materials, here's the color. We want you to render it and make it look good. So we have to play with what we've got and what we're given. So here, drag and drop model. We've got a user interface, we got some ports, we've got a variety of different things. And what you can see is that the material's there, not too exciting. We've got a standard environment that we just dropped in. Overall, it looks pretty flat. There's nothing dynamic about this. This is, I wouldn't even say this is a good informative rendering. And part of that is because it doesn't really inform the overall shape of the object very well. This is a large round, but there's not much there telling me that it is. We, who are designers, can look at it and see that there's a radii here and that there's a radius here. So we fill in that gap. But it's not about what we see. It's about what our audience sees and what the intent is. So simply adding a light here, let me see if I can actually do it with the base one. There we go. Simply adding this and increasing the brightness gets that highlight to read that form a little bit better. I'm not going to say that's good. I'm not going to say that's bad. I'm just saying now it's more of a communicative rendering. It tells us we can read the lip there. We can read the lip there. We've got a little highlight. If we zoom in a little bit, we could basically say, okay, that's good enough. Let's come in and render. I gotta. There's no real change to the background. It's not overly exciting, but if I had 5 of these, that's great. You could toss them up there, and internally we could review it. Now, what we could do next, though, is we've got a couple different forms of renderings that we can do. Let me pull this up here. Let's see how quickly this image comes up. Okay, I knew I should have found this prior. When I don't want it, it shows up all the time. There we go. So let's come in. We're going to take this, go back here. And let's take a look at this. So from a sketching standpoint, we have explorative, which is your basic ID, quick sketches. You've got your persuasive sketches that are dynamic and exciting. You've got your explanatory or communicative, which are, I mean, the sketches look really nice, but they're more about communicating what it's doing versus trying to make it uber exciting and fancy. And then we've got prescriptive, which is basically the nuts and bolts, exploded views, things of that nature. Now, we have the exact same type of renderings. So, if we've got an idea sketch, here is an idea rendering. And that's about the same amount of effort that I put into it. You know, it's an idea. I want to get it up. I want to get in front of people. We've already gone through the sketches. You know, I've got this and 4 other ones that were picked. Let's just take a quick look at it and see the form so that we can read it. You know, we can... Oh, I hate when I do that. See, I always forget to do that. Let's just get that up there. We'll go done. You know, we've got it. We can move it around. We can spin it. That's all we really need. Now, we're not going to worry about explanatory or prescriptive renderings because we want to go straight to what is persuasive. Now, if we look at a rendering and we look at what is persuasive, what are all the things that we can do in Keyshot to make our renderings exciting, persuasive? This is open up for you guys to answer. What are your thoughts? Anybody?
Some dramatic angles.
Okay, so camera angles. What else?
Maybe add some color for some flair
Color to what?
to the lights.
Okay, so, yep. What else are we thinking? So we've got lights, we got camera angles.
Maybe the background.
Okay, so the environment, background, you know, however we want to do it.
Make the button glow.
Okay, okay. If it actually glows, for all intents and purposes, we're going to say it. Hold on, let me just see something here. Bastards. Well, okay, for all intents and purposes, we're going to say the entire button glows. But anyways, yep, button glows. What else can we make this seem more dynamic, more exciting? Product positioning.
Add a backdrop.
Yep.
Maybe adding some other products that would be used with it.
Okay, yep. Now keep in mind, we're trying to showcase this design. So what I would say is have a different product, or have the same product, but have 2 of them in the scene. You know, what's that going to do? Is that going to be more exciting? You know?
Put it on a table.
Put it on a table. Now I think putting on a table, depending on how you would do it, may not make it dynamic. It's making it more communicative. You know, so if I had a computer and I had this placed by the computer and it was on a table, that's a great scene. You know, that's telling me, if I go back and I look at our rendering styles, that's giving me explanatory. You know, so I'm showing it in its environment and what it's doing.
have a bear stomp on it.
There we go. Have a bear stomp on it. That sounds good. I don't know if that's the most effective way, but hey, it's a way. What else are we thinking here? Okay, so all really good details. So let's take a look at how we can quickly and easily make this more dynamic. So again, let's start with just a black background, and let's do something really, really simple. And I'm going to show you guys this, and you're going to love this. So we're going to come in here, we're going to go to environment, and we'll go to HDR editor. Actually, we're just going to go new. We're going to get rid of the gray, just like we've talked about. Starting with black is useful. So there's our black, but I need to be able to see right now. So I just got to make it white so I can see something. Well, I saw a lot of people doing different things with different colors and really, you know, giant lights in that. But what if we wanted to highlight? So this is a very key, and again, looking at and understanding what is a key thing about your design. What do you want to call out? Well, this is nothing but a plastic housing. It's not overtly exciting. Who cares? It's ugly. You know, but how do we make this dynamic? We can see that we've got a nice little highlight going along here and going along there. Well, what if we were to light it up underneath here? Now, we saw how we can create lights and we can move those lights around, but using HDRI lighting is only going to get you part of the way many times. So what we can do though is we're going to come in and we're going to grab a model, and I'm sure, I guarantee you, what I'm going to show you, absolutely every one of you have all seen this design done. So I'm going to grab a cylinder, we're going to drop it in there, we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. We are going to scale it. Let us go to a top view because I want to make sure that it is parallel to this. So I can do that by simply going camera, standard views, top. You can see it's not parallel to it. So let's just get it quickly to be parallel. And I want it to be the full length. And I want it to be a little bit skinnier. And I'm just going to play with this for a little bit. And we're going to say that's good. I also want to just get a camera here so that we can go. So again, is the camera exciting yet or not? I don't know. Let me just add a camera here. So I'm going to add the camera. I'm just going to call it plain. I want to make sure I lock that so that I don't move it, and I can go back to my free camera. Now, this is an object with a material assigned to it. It's not a light. But we have, and I'll show you how to do this on other things as well to make these buttons and that glow. What we can do is come in and say, well, we want there to be a dynamic light underneath this area here. So we can come in and say, let's take a material, and in here we have materials, and we can go to lights, and we can assign lights to an object. So let's say we're going to take that and we're going to assign it to there. That now becomes the equivalent of a, how do I want to say it, incandescent tube. We can come in and go to that material, which is going to be the area light here, and you can see we've got a variety of different ones preset. Now, it all looks white on here. Oh, it's not what I wanted to do. I can come in and I can adjust this. And the power, lumens, or if you want to do watts, these are more if you're really, really getting specific. You know, 1200s is pretty high, as you can see. So let's turn that down a little bit. And you can see that the brightness there is changing. So let's come back and we're going to go to our environment. And we're going to make that black because now we got a light in there, we can see what it's doing. So here now, this alone is starting to make that a little bit more dynamic and exciting. So what we can also do is come to our material. And here we've got some advanced settings for the lights. We can apply it to the front of the geometry, to the back, visible to camera, visible in reflections. So let's say we don't want to see this. So we're going to go and turn off visible to camera. Now, we can use this to create whatever camera angle we want. So, because it's hidden. So if this is visible to the camera, and let's say I wanted to get that view, well, I'm somewhat limited to that. Wherein if I come in and we go to our material, we make that not visible to reflections, we make it visible to the camera, then we can get that a little bit more dynamic. So what we can also then do is start playing with it a little bit more. Come on, where's my object? We're going to come into our scene. There's our cylinder. We're going to move it and scale it. So let's scale it way down. We're going to move it in. And you can see now that that spread of that light is starting to change things. Now, are we liking what we're getting here? You know, now we're definitely getting something that is a little bit more dynamic from a lighting standpoint. You know, we're really accentuating that. Now, we could always come back in and say, okay, that's what I want. That's the light I want. Now let me just come in and I'm going to add a light up here because I still want to read the top a little bit better. Now, not as dynamic, not as exciting, but let's come in and maybe adjust the color brightness here and we'll get it to be more of a blue. Just a hint of blue because we still want that white to read through. So you can see now by using other items, we can get that to be a little bit more exciting. And you've got a little bit more control over the material because this simulates much more of a real world light. You can come in and play with your colors to get a different look. Now, of course, we didn't adjust the lumens, so let's drop that down a little bit more. So now it's about finding, you know, what's going to work and what is your vision. Not, oh, well, that's just cool. Why do we want to use a red? Why do we want to use a blue? Oops. You know, what is it that we're trying to achieve? So again, we should have reasons behind what we're doing. And this is going to be one of the items wherein I'm going to have you guys come find some images that you find to be dynamic and persuasive, product renderings. And I'm going to have you guys tell me why you think it's dynamic. What is it about? Because right now, all we're doing is playing with some lighting. Now, something else, again, So you saw how we were able to take an object and make it light up. Well, let's say, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, that's why. I'm still in here. Why is that not showing up? There we go. Okay, so let's get that back to low. Or we're going to actually turn that off. So I can hide it. So just like any other light, I can hide it. Now, so we just saw where I could make that tube become a bright, bright, bright light. Well, that can be a dirty, cheap way of getting something to light up. Now, the moment I light things up, it becomes, oh, that must be hollow. It becomes, you know, a little bit slower to render because it's trying to figure that all out. But what we can do is come back here. I don't remember what one is what, though. And why is it not letting me adjust it? There we go. We'll get into what I just opened up here later. So now I want to adjust my power. So let's get it down. But you can see it still just acts as a light. I would have to come in and the whole object is kind of lit up. So it's not really what we want to have it do. But what we can do is use emissive. And that's a special light. We can adjust the color. Turn down our intensity. I don't know why it's not adjusting here. Oh, that's why. So we're just going to go with multi-material. Let me come back in. I'm just going to grab an emissive from here. And then you can adjust the intensity. Now the reason it's all coming through here is because I don't think this model, I think it's got a gap in it. So it's lighting up in the background. So let's just do a quick render. And one of the things that you'll notice is that the render time is going to take longer now. Even though we have less lights in the scene, what we've got is this object here that's trying to light everything up, and that's way too bright. And this is why you don't want to do high-res renderings all the time. You want to do quick little test renders. So we can use emissive lights to create things so that they have the appearance of a glow. Let us come in. I'm just going to go in here. We'll just grab a little sphere. Now you can see here where it's so bright that it doesn't really have that. Oh, I didn't adjust the color properly. Now, what we also want to do when we're doing this for this lighting is what's called bloom. So bloom is exactly that. How much light does it give off? What is that area? If this is too high, then it doesn't show anything. If it's too low, it doesn't look like it's glowing either. So, and this one I've never got 100% right. So, because it all depends on the size of your rendering or your objects. No, I don't have it right. Okay, we'll play with that a little bit more later. I don't want to start screwing around with the lighting. It was more about me showing you what you can do to do that. I've got another tutorial that will go into deeper with that. Okay, so let's get that part there back to what we had. We're going to delete that. We'll get rid of that. That's still way so bright, I don't know why. There we go. Okay. And we've also already turned off that other one. So let's turn that back on. And then let's just go in and we're going to hide it. There. So we've made it a little bit more exciting, but we don't have too much going on, you know, with this when we add that other light. Now you can see I changed the intensity so that all you're really getting, it's just lighting up this one area. So that's emissive, where in area light that we are using does exactly that. It spreads over a greater area, as you can see when we look at that rendering. So that actually is extremely dynamic. That's exciting looking. Now, you don't know what the product is, but if that's what we want to highlight, now it's about setting up the lights to suggest the rest of it. Now, what we could try to do, and again, I got to be able to see what I'm grabbing here. We're going to take this cylinder and we're going to just duplicate it. And then let's just move it over to the other side. And we're just going to move it up a little bit. And let's go back to our scene. So now you can see that we're only looking at edges and some rim lighting. You know, the front face isn't lit up enough, but can we see that we're getting a little bit more dynamic in what we're working on here? And some of it is coming back and moving the light. And the nice thing is just like the other ones, you can move it in real time. So that, to me, we're getting a little bit more exciting. You know, what do we want to try to do? Now, you can do this with any shape, any object. You could do it with a, let's come in here. So we're going to go to the models here. You could come in and do it with a sphere, you know, a cube. You could make it, you can take a flat plane and use that. Let's come in here. We'll just scale it up really big. If I come in and I say, okay, there's that, and then we are going to come in and we're going to use the exact same material. Oh. Where'd it go? We're going to come back to my environment. We're going to make it white again so I can see where stuff is. I'm going to come over here, and I think I know what happened. Because I've got this set so that it's not visible to the camera, I needed to move it. Now the question is, you know, why was that light not showing up? Well, it's not showing up because look where it is. It's way, way over there. So this is where, you know, we want to grab it. We're going to material, we're going to, we're going to scene, we're going to grab our plane. And this is where you can name these exactly what they are, so you don't lose track of them. So we're going to come in here, we're going to move. Let me just make sure where I am in the world. So you can see this is below it now. Well, that could be very interesting as well. So let's come back and we're going to hide our two cylinders. And let's come back and we're going to make this black, or our environment black again. Oh no! So we'll turn that off, we'll make it invisible to the camera. So now you can see we've got a completely different dynamics going on with it all being lit from underneath. It's kind of like having one of those light tables and you drop it on. This is no different than that. These are, you know, tricks of photography. And that's something too, and maybe, you know, we can get some stuff up. But if we look and we come in here and we go tricks to product photography. It's not showing what I want. So, so here's something that's exciting. You know, they added water, which you can do in Keyshot. You can add splashes, you can add droplets, you know, so what can you do to enhance it? You know, so adding things to the environment, adding things to the product, if that's what you're trying to communicate. Now, let's see what happens if we go for a white background. So we've still got some nice lighting to get that underneath there. Now it washes out when we go with a pure white background, which I would say if we're trying to be dynamic, we're not really looking to get that white background. You know, do we want to go with the red? What's going to complement our color? For this, if I'm envisioning, hey, I want to, this is electronics, I want you to be excited about it. What I would probably do is I would come in, and you can see I used the same light for each one, same material. Now the problem with that is if I want to come in and I want to adjust the intensity, everything gets adjusted. I don't have that control. So again, what you want to do is each piece or each object you're going to use as a light, you want to assign it to its own light source so that you can edit it individually. So, oh, I don't want to save. You can see here wherein we've still got 3 shaded values, but we've got very different dramatic lighting. We've got a little bit of a rim edge there, rim edge along the bottom. You can kind of see it along here. We've got our highlights in here. The only thing that I would say about this is that we're not getting any excitement reading in the face. So we did a great job of communicating the form, but what would we do for the front face? You know, so there we're adding more lights, or let's just come in here. You know what? I think I'm just going to use that. That's not doing what I want it to do. Huh. I'm still not getting the emissive to do what I want it to do for some reason. Okay, I'm not going to think around with that too much. So, let us come back. Are you guys seeing what I'm doing here? Like with that intent, like to me, when I look at this, this is dramatic. This kind of communicates high end, you know, elegant. What do you guys think? What do you feel this communicates to you with this kind of lighting? Portal. What do you mean by advanced?
So usually, I don't know, with that type of lighting, I just assume it's something that they're about to unveil. It's like, this is something new. And usually something new, is technology-wise, is
Yep.
Advanced.
So would we say that, so when we say Portal, are you talking about the game?
That is correct.
Okay. How about we get some comments of not what it looks like, but what does it say from a lighting standpoint? Is it, so let's use descriptors. You know, so we've got the one advanced. You know, is it
Expensive.
expensive? Okay. What else do we have?
It's hidden.
Okay. So could we say instead of hidden, mysterious?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay. Now, if we were showcasing this as a black product, I mean, that's something I would buy in a heartbeat. Even though I can't see what this is. You know, but if I highlight that a little bit more, versus if I come in what does this rendering say to you? What are some descriptors?
Opalescent.
Okay. Friendly, yep. I feel the colors and that maybe a little toyish. If I saw that rendering of the black and then this, and I bought that, or that black rendering, and then this showed up on my doorstep, I'd be angry. So we want to make sure that we're still communicating it in the best way. But for this, we've got, oh, that's why they weren't lighting up. They got hidden. Huh. Anyways, so you can see how very quickly we can change that. Now, let's take a look and see what happens if we take this whole object? Nope. I think these are all, oh, there we go. Oh, so before I start moving any object, I duplicate, because I want to be able to have my original location, just in case I move it around so much that I don't like it. But what if we were to take this, move it up, now I'm not moving the camera, I'm moving the object, you know, because I still want to get that shadow later on that shows it up in space. So, and I'm not saying this is a very good one, but we could do something like this. Now let's come back to our environment. Now, what do you think is going to happen when I change this back to black? Back to black. Well, my lighting is completely different because I didn't move any of the lights with it. So where those lights are all different. So if I'm going to change that shape, then I need a whole new environment, or I need to create new lights. So that's why if you've got things set up the way you want it, what you want to do is take your lights and let's say I'm going to grab those, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say add to group. And then it's going to say, okay, I want to put it in the power bank. I'm going to hit new group, and we're just going to call this light set 1. Now, what that means is I've got light set 1. So that I can always go back to my one camera and have it corresponding to that. So if I'm going to do a different dynamic shot, I'm going to set up all new lights for it. Now, same as, what if we were to simply come in, duplicate this, and what we're going to do is we're just going to move it. Let's just do that. We're going to turn on our normal lights. So we're going to hide all the other lights. Let's get our scene back so we can see what's going on here. Oh, whoops. Now, by having this in this area, what can we do to get this a little bit more exciting and dynamic? You know, is it a matter of we can grab this one, there. And get it to be a little bit more of a story. Now, keeping in mind, I moved this, but as you can see, it's not on the floor. So again, much like when you're 3D modeling, modify, evaluate, and refine. So I'm going to refine this by actually having it snap to the ground. Now, I can come into my camera, and under the cameras, we've got the exact same things for everything else that we can do. A standard perspective length. So we can go and adjust the distance by using a slider versus in and out. And some people may say, well, why would you ever want that? Well, there are times where I'm matching things and I want to know that that camera is 1 foot away, 5 feet away, 5 feet up in the air. I'll do a lot of renderings when I'm doing the ergonomics, and I will set the camera at a 5'2" high so that they can see that that is where your 5'2" person is looking. So I can adjust all these. Now you can adjust, I don't know why they call it that, but the rotation, the angle, and sometimes, you know, you want to get it so that it is just a certain, like, hey, I want it perfectly zero. You know, that's what I want. Now, as we're getting this set up, I'm still going to look at this and say, well, what's not exciting about this? So if we looked at the position of these two objects, what would you guys do different here? And why?
I feel like the view of it standing up like that isn't necessarily showing any of the function and kind of faces away from you almost. So maybe if they're like laying on top of each other or something, like the one was leaning on the other, both kind of still facing forward.
Okay. What would anybody else do?
I would try to add more contrast because it just looks very plain.
Okay, so let's focus on the position of the object or objects.
So it just looks like the one standing up. It just doesn't add enough like contrast from the body from the top. You know what I mean?
Okay. So that would be, we would work on that with the lighting. So we heard, you know, that this looks very plain. Somebody else said, well, maybe show them stacked. What else?
I think even if maybe having them both laying down, but one showing like the back of it and one showing the front, how you have it, and the one that's facing away almost, not as visually shown, but to show kind of like the other side of it.
Okay, so we've got a variety of things here that we can do and that we can play with here quickly. So I think one of the things for this one, you know, like simply rotating it a little bit to see that tower again, to show that this could probably stand up or whatever. The next one we talked about here, let's grab this one. We're going to go duplicate. What if they were standing up on top of each other? You know, to show that they can bank. So that's getting a little bit more exciting. Let's see what happens if we come back and we just make that black. Oh, we hit our... That actually looks pretty dynamic. You know, what does it look like if we get rid of this top one and we put that one on? Well, we'd want to adjust our lighting because I don't think that lighting does what we want it to do. Again, it's kind of washed out, but you know, maybe that's what we want. So another one, these are still somewhat static. I don't know if they're what I would consider dynamic because it's very communicative. Oh, you can stack it. Oh, you can stand on the end. But are they exciting? Does the scene speak to me? You know, so let's try, let's turn off that one, let's turn off that one, let's turn on that one, let's turn off that one. Oops. We're going to come back here. We're going to duplicate this. What happens oh, I hate when I do that. Now, of course, you want to play with it for a while. But what happens if it's sitting up like that? Now, of course, we want to get some lighting in here again, get it specifically to brighten that face. So let's just kind of go, and to do that quickly, we're just going to change it to more of a gray background. Obviously, it's kind of sitting the wrong way, but you could play with that and get it to look a little bit more dynamic. It also, from a rendering standpoint, it suggests you need to buy two. You really need two. I don't know why I think that, but I think it is. So here you can see that we've started playing with the scene and adjusting cameras, adjusting, various things. Now, what is the camera position? Because right now, everything we've done encompasses this whole object. Let me come back. We're going to turn off that one. And for some of us, or for some of you guys, you've been playing with the depth of field. There we go. And that is no different than the other one, where you can go depth of field, focus distance, f-stop. Same as before, you can select the point and say, I want it there. Now, obviously, the f-stop is pretty high, so you can adjust that. Hold on one second. Get out of here, dumbass. Leave him alone. So you can start playing with that. There, it's starting to get a little bit more exciting. Let's move the camera in. And to get it just a little bit more dynamic here. So there we've got it, but it's still, are we doing anything with the camera angle? Now I see people who do this and they go, well, that's exciting. I like that because it shows off this. But does that look intentional? We've got a portion of it cut off over here. Does that look intentional? Does that really read well? What do you guys think? That position of that camera and the object in the screen.
It's getting there.
Okay. So, you've all taken graphic design. Or some of you have, I think. Oh, no, wait. Golden triangle. So, we're all familiar with the golden triangle and how to use it in compositions. This is something that you guys need to learn for doing renderings. I'm just going to copy that. We'll just put it up here for now. Oh, there we go. Because that is composition. How are we laying this out? Does it look exciting like that? Well, negative space, positive space. If there was something more over here, if we had, let's turn on one of our other objects. Oh, whoops, I got the, there we go. If we're going to look down at it, is that exciting? Can I tell what this is in this? Maybe if we zoom in really close, like here, well, let's do a zoom in look. Well, if I zoom in like that, I don't think that's very well framed. It just looks like something's cut off. Versus something like that, it's zoomed in closer, but that looks like it's an intentional thing, that I've intentionally cut that off at a good portion. Because again, if we look at rule of thirds, so that doesn't look quite right, or sorry, that doesn't look quite right. You know, there, that's kind of dynamic, but it wouldn't look right like that. You know, so finding that and communicating, what are we trying to do? Well, we want to communicate this recess, this button, and this, and we want to get that dynamic lighting. You know, what is it that we're trying to show off? So we can get that. Hide that one. And again, how does it look now that it's, if we do that? So here, by zooming in, you can see that this might be a little too bright. It's a little washed out. So your camera angle, as you change your camera angle, your lighting angles need to change too. So that's kind of why one of those things, you know, get your lights in there, but figure out what your camera angle is going to be, or figure out what position your model is going to be, and then you start doing your lights. Because if I lay out all those lights and say, awesome, I love that. Okay, but I want it to be this camera angle. Do these lights still work now? Actually, I'm going to say they actually work better in this camera angle. But if I come in and I say, I want this, do these work? You know, does it work now? So that's why you want to land on, where is my camera first? And then I want to lock it. And then I'm going to build my lights around that. So your composition and your layout is one of the very first things that should happen. Okay, so we've covered.
It's starting to look like when Apple released a product.
Yeah, it's like if you Google, like I'm not showing you any lighting or any style that is original, you know, and why do I need to? Products with dynamic lighting. I don't even know if I'm spelling that right. I don't want that. Yeah, so you can see here, you know, pulling up this rendering. What is dynamic about that? Well, the camera, the perspective, you know, yeah, the neon lights look nice. The different black on black, you know, what else can we find out there? It's dynamic in the sense of the camera angle, almost to the point where I couldn't even tell what it was. Doing the lighting effect, not so much dynamic as more communicative. So let's do this. Black label booze. So here we have Black Label Johnny Walker. You know, it's a very static image. There's nothing really dynamic about it. Well, here, now they're adding in a scene. They've got a little bit of a back prop. You know, you can obviously tell that in my mind, if I look at this photo, that is a much more expensive bottle, but that's because of the packaging design. If we go in and so here we go, even more dynamic. I don't know how I feel about this. It doesn't, like, to me, it doesn't speak to me. Like, yeah, I see what they're doing, but there's a lot going on. You know, I would say that that's not necessarily a good example of showcasing a product and getting someone excited about it. The blue doesn't seem to tie in with anything. I can't really even read the labels. Even if we open that up, you know, it looks better when I open it up, but I don't know. For me, there's some missed opportunity. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, someone probably went really dynamic and dramatic, and then someone said that's too dramatic, and said, why don't we add a blue background? Because if you look, the only bottle that reflects blue is this one here. But why? Like, that sticks out as a sore thumb. I mean, it's the blue label, but nothing else ties that in. Let's go with, see, there's, oh, here we go. Let's look at Johnny Walker, baby. Now, if that doesn't reek expensive, sophisticated, you know, dramatic, I don't know what does. You know, classic. You can see the words that they're using, classic for a reason. That's a very classy look, a very classy feel. Okay. Before I give the assignment, questions, I'm sorry. Okay, so here's what I want you guys to do for tomorrow or for Wednesday's class. So I want this stuff up on the board before class starts. I want you guys to search the web, and I want you to find 3 distinctly different looking product photography or product shots. And I want you to do a little blurb that says what kind of emotion does this image invoke, what are its characteristics, and why do you think it does that? So, kind of again, as an example, you know, we talked about, well, this invokes high-end feel, dramatic, sophisticated. Why does it do that? Well, I think it's dramatic because the whole thing's not lit and there's only key areas. Sophisticated because society has taught me that black is sophisticated. A black dress, a black car, you know, items that are draped in black, it's sophisticated. That's the stereotype I have in my head, you know, because that's what society has told me. You know, my phone is black, it's sophisticated. Doesn't mean it's right. Different cultures are going to communicate it differently. Asian culture, black, represents death in many of the cultures. You know, so got to keep that in mind. Right now, let's just focus on North America. So for a second object, I would want something completely different for you guys to do. So 3 objects, what emotions and what they invoke, what they feel, look like, and why. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Are we starting to see how individual components, you know, and we're doing this specifically for individual steps, but how they're all coming together to really enhance what your renderings are going to look like, so that it's not just static, but you guys can, you've got a larger tool case to play with to get different types of renderings and looks. Okay, awesome. Excuse me. That's all for today. I will get these. Oh, good. Yes.